Jeff Cavins stood before his congregation, Bible in hand, preaching the gospel with the fire of a man convinced he had finally found the truth. He had left the Catholic Church years earlier, convinced it was spiritually dead. Now he was a Protestant pastor, leading others out of what he saw as empty ritual. Then something happened that he never expected. He discovered he had been wrong about everything. Growing up Catholic in Minnesota, Cavins had what looked like a solid faith, but in college, something shifted. He attended Christ for the Nations Institute and was struck by one thing. Born-again Christians were genuinely excited about the Bible. Compared to the dead faith he felt he had experienced, this was electric. The turning point came in a public dispute with a Catholic bishop. Frustrated and convinced the church had abandoned Scripture, Cavins walked away. He trained as a Protestant pastor, returned to Minnesota, and founded Open Arms Ministry. For 12 years, he built a life preaching against the church of his childhood. "I wasn't being fed," he later admitted. That yearning, that hunger for something real drove him to search, and his search took him somewhere he never expected. There's a moment in Cavins' story that captures everything. Years after returning to the church, he stopped by a Home Depot where his elderly father worked. The young cashier mentioned how much everyone liked Bob Cavins. Jeff walked to his car, then turned back. "Did you know my dad was vice president at Honeywell? Did you know his PhD was related to inventing lasers, and his work was mostly top secret?" The cashier had no idea. "I just wanted you to know who my father was." Sitting in the car afterward, it hit him. It took a son to reveal the Father, he realized, and suddenly he understood Jesus differently. The Son reveals the Father. His own father, Robert Eugene Cavins, had quietly set the stage for everything, working at Home Depot after a brilliant career, never complaining, just being present. His dad's funeral was held October 16, 2024. His casket rested exactly where Jeff used to set up his Bible timeline chart for teaching. Cavins returned to the Catholic Church in the mid-1990s, guided by his childhood pastor, who had become Bishop Paul Dudley, and now Archbishop Robert Carlson. He calls himself a paper convert, someone who studied his way home. He immersed himself in the Church Fathers, the papacy, the writings of John Paul II. "It so resonated in my heart that I was not in the family anymore. Also, the open arms policy of my childhood pastor, it was very peaceful." He launched Life on the Rock on EWTN, a show that ran for 6 years. He created the Great Adventure Bible Timeline, a color-coded system that helps Catholics see Scripture as one unified story. More than 6,000 groups worldwide now use his materials. His Bible in a Year podcast with Father Mike Schmitz became the #1 podcast in America. Cavins speaks about the Bible with the urgency of someone who nearly lost it. He tells Catholics that ignorance of Scripture is ignorance of Christ. But he also knows why people quit reading. They hit Leviticus. So he teaches people the narrative first, the 14 books that tell the story, the thread that holds everything together. He once told a packed hall, "We will find a place to be fed because we're hungry and we're searching." He found his place, not in a new church, but in the one he left behind. His story is a reminder that leaving isn't always the end. Sometimes it's the long way home.